All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we've got a special guest, Jim Steffler, one of the most, the best, in my opinion, one of the best mortgage agents in the nation. Jim regularly works with myself and our organization, and the guy just knows everything on the mortgage side. But more importantly than that, he understands the hustle. He understands what it takes to build a big business because he's done it in a very short time in the mortgage world by supporting realtors of all brands, all categories. And, you know, the guy's personality is just one that you're not going to find anywhere else. So we knew we had to get him on the show. Jim, thank you for joining us and thank you for being here. Tell everyone how you kind of got to this path. Because, I mean, it wasn't your traditional, hey, you know, I graduate high school and I jump into the mortgage game. How'd you get here?
Yeah, a little different, a little different. By the way, thanks for having me. It was either, this podcast or Joe Rogan. I wasn't sure which one I was going to do. It was the same time. Joe offered
Same
me,
time. Yeah. I
same
mean, Joe wishes
same
he was
time.
as cool as me. He does.
And I told Joe, I said, I can't, I think I want to do Andres instead. All right, so my
Love it.
background, I guess, straight from university to Future Shop. Remember good old Future Shop?
Oh,
So
yeah.
sold
For those of you
TVs.
listening, this
No.
is one of those. I mean, depending on where in the world you are, this is your big box electronics retailer, right? So I mean, they sold everything, right? PlayStations, audio equipment, all of that stuff, and you ran the joint, didn't you?
I did. So I started on the sales floor, selling TVs, selling Discmans for a while, all that crap. And then worked my way up, got assistant manager, was super proud of that. And worked my way up to be the big boss and start running boxes. And then I ended in a district position. So I was a district position. I'll give you the background of what happened. Best Buy came along and bought us, and then eventually decided to close us and make us Best Buy. And
Pretty good
I remember that
strategy, right?
day. Yeah, well, it was a matter of time. And I remember that day going home to my wife because I lost all my peers. Like everybody at Future Shop was gone. And we used to actually fight Best Buy. Like, even though they were owned by the same company, we used to take them on. And I remember telling my wife, I said, okay, everybody I used to fight is now my boss. And there's nobody really in my tree left. Like, nobody who's really kind of brought me along for the ride is left. They're all gone. And I said to my wife, I'm like, I'm done. I know it. It's going to be, 1 year, maybe. Because they let go of almost everybody. And, I lasted 3 years and I knew what I wanted to get into. And I jumped into mortgage brokering at the end of that. And we're on year 6 now. So,
Nice. That's awesome. And you know, you probably were right. I mean, that is a strategy in the business world, right? You got a competitor that's a thorn in your side, purchase them, and then, you know,
yeah,
eventually close them so you get rid of your competition, right? And so Best Buy
100%.
today, I think they're the dominant player in that force, right? There's nobody else really as a competition now.
No, they're the last of the big, really the last, the big box electronics. That's it, right? Like,
Yeah.
who else is even around? Is
I don't think
2001 even
anybody's
around?
left. No,
Like
I don't think anybody's
2001,
left.
your name is like 23 years old, right? Like about
Yeah.
technology, like doesn't make sense anymore. So
Which is crazy. You know, I got to be honest, Jim. We typically, I think you maybe, and nobody quote me to this. If you're going back through episodes, don't quote me on this because I could be wrong, but I'm almost 100% certain you are the first mortgage broker we've had on this side because one of the things that happens is a lot of realtors, a lot of business owners come through the podcast, but we never really pick the brain of the guy that's funding all this crazy stuff that we're doing.
sure,
And you know, when we were talking, I was like, you know, that would be such a unique perspective because you know, for those listening, depending on when you're listening to this, nobody's using the R word. It's September 2024, and I mean, the real estate market is, for lack of a better word, depending on where you are, a bit of a dumpster fire. There's some good, some bad, well, a lot of bad. You know, you're starting to see power sales come back out. You're starting to see approvals are getting harder and harder all across North America. And it just felt like the right time to have someone from your side of things come in and kind of tell us what you're seeing from that side of the world.
sure, sure. Do you want me to tell you how I got working with realtors? how that
Yeah, you know
started.
what? That's a really cool story, and I don't even think I have the full answer. I know you just called me one day and you were like, "Hey, we should
Yeah,
grab a drink and chat," but you've got a very unique strategy at how you've built. In my opinion, you're in the top, what, 5%, 10% of the nation for mortgage agents.
2%. Yeah,
Top two
yeah, two,
percent.
up 2%. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, congratulations. Okay, well, let's
I
start there. Tell me how in 6 years you went from a brand new mortgage broker to now. I know at least in this city you're in the top five, and nationwide you're in the top 2%. So walk us through that journey of yours.
Yeah, it wasn't my intention. So I jumped into mortgage brokering, and I thought I was going to work off friends and family referrals and advertise. That was my thought process. And I remember I met my best friend, and my best friend and I, he mentioned me. He's like, "Hey, I'm going into some debt. Maybe I need to refinance." So we didn't do an application, but we met up. We had a beer. We penciled out the whole deal. We did everything, and then followed up with him. I remember this was like my first month. I followed up with him. I'm like, "Hey, let's do this. Let's get you and your wife settled." At the same time, Andre, I started buying Facebook ads. I think I got a park bench then. I figured I kind of had my balls going. So 2 months go by, and I remember I was driving. There was a boys' weekend, and there's four of us in this car. And I remember I did one of these. I leaned back, and I'm like, "Hey," I'm like, "when are we doing this refinance? Like, let's go. Let's pull the trigger." And he goes, "Well, I did it." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "No, I did it." And I said, "What'd you do?" Same lender, same, like you name it, the same. It was the quietest car ride up to Muskoka you've ever seen. I was so mad, like so mad. So then here's where it gets interesting. I remember we were drinking by the fire, and it's like 11 o'clock at night. Everybody's had too many drinks, and I'm like, "What the hell, man? Why didn't you call me?" And he's like, "I didn't want my wife. My wife didn't want to share our visa and how much debt we have, and she didn't want you to see her T4s. So it was easier to go somewhere else." And that kind of hit me. And I was like, "Wait a minute. Friends, family, they're almost too close." Because I'm like a doctor. And like, there's certain things, if your doctor was your best friend, which you wouldn't want to show your doctor, right? Like, I've never had any of that
Absolutely.
stuff, Andre. Maybe some of your other guests have. But there's certain things you wouldn't want to chat with a doctor who's like a best friend, though. And I think money is very personal.
Yeah.
So my strategy was I said, forget friends and family. I'm going to start pivoting. And that's when I started to cold call a zillion realtors just like you. And that was what
When
kind of my
interesting
game
you
plan.
say that, right? Because we get it the other way all the time where people will look at us and they'll do the exact same thing where they will come in and I had it happen, right? And I tell realtors this all the time where your first 3 to 5 years, depending on how much volume you do, nobody is probably going to use you. Like it's just
Yeah.
there's the risk of the friendship. There's the risk you for lack of a better word, you f up the transaction.
Yep.
There's the personal information. There's the, hey, I went to your mortgage broker and I only got pre-approved for 500. But I've been shopping with you for 90 days at 800. Like there's all the embarrassing things that happen, and we get it too all the time. And I didn't have friends or family use me either. Probably for those first 3 to 4 years. I wasn't as smart as you. I didn't figure it out as quickly as you. I just thought they were just being jerks or whatever. But kudos to you for figuring that out right away. That it's too personal.
I was like, it's just too personal. That feedback just rang in my ears. And I remember I was 2 months in, and I remember my stupid Facebook ads weren't getting me anywhere. So I was like, the heck with it. And I started cold call realtors, started to grab drinks with
You
realtors.
sound, by the way, like everybody that gets into our industry. I ran ads for 2 months and nothing happened, and I said screw it.
I'm like, done, done. And then, I mean, this might make your viewers laugh, but there's truth to it. I also figured out, I work with realtors every day. Realtors love a coffee, but they love a drink more. And I figured out I was way better off instead of spending $100 on advertising to go for a nice lunch, have a few drinks, get to know each other. And that ad spend went a million times further for me. And then, the part I'm not saying is the part which I hope people assume. I know my shit. I'm good with their clients. I'm going to take good care. All that stuff for sure. You got to back it up, right? But
Yeah.
my strategy was I want to work with realtors. I want to be a celebrity mortgage broker amongst realtors. That was my goal. And
You've never said that word
I
to me
say this
before. You've
humbly
never
that
said celebrity mortgage broker amongst the realtors. I think you need to open with that going forward.
that was the goal. And I say this humbly. First year in the business, I did 27 million. I was Canadian Lending's Rookie of the Year, which means kind of big. And then my peak years have been 88 million, and that's me solo. There's no team. I work every one of my clients' files, so I get an assistant. She's amazing, but yeah.
So you and an assistant, top 2% in the nation, top five in the region that you're working in. And I've joked with you so much about, hey, you got to get a team, you got to do that, but you refuse to go down that path. You got to explain to me what that is. Is that just keeping the personal relationship? Is that because hey, I'm gonna get to pop out and have a great lunch with a great realtor like myself? Like, what is it that keeps you from starting the team and wanting to spread it
Well,
out?
I'm even weird. Okay, like even a lot of my peers in that top 2%, they have underwriters, they have junior agents, and they're pooling under them. Like my volume is my volume, which is very unique and very weird. But I'll get into this. I think there's a couple things. First of all, yeah, you're right. Like, you're one of my favorite people to go out with. There's a few others I like going out with. I love that. I love that. It's fun. I like talking to clients though too. I like the personal connection. I like working with my clients. I like hearing their stories. I like putting families in homes. It's fun. And then, you know, I think, maybe this is a different way to look at it. And I think it's similar in your world. You can have a big team, but not make as much money than if you just were a great solo agent and knocked it out of the park. And I look at it that way. It's just a different headache. Right now I have clients that call me all the time. If I had a big team, I'd have agents which call me all the time. And
Right.
I like the work I do. And I think, heck, we chat about this. I might change my tune down the road, but for now, I just like doing what I do. And, I do like as a value add to the realtor, if you send your client to me, you're sending your client to me. I'm not passing you on to Johnny, not handing you to Maria. Like I'm looking at the file, I'm reviewing their stuff, and
Right.
hopefully it gives your clients. I can control the client experience, and I hope it gives that realtor a sense that hey, this isn't going to get screwed up. This isn't going to be handed off, and that's it. That's
What
it for now.
I think that's important though, because far too often people think, oh, the size of the team equals the dollar amount that you're going to make, and I say this to people all the time, like the two most profitable, because there's revenue and there's profit, and a lot of people don't understand the difference. That there is a difference between top line and bottom line. You could pull in, 2-3 million up here and be taking home less than $100,000 in your pocket if you don't know what
Sure
you're
can.
doing, right? And so it's not just revenue, right? You got to look at profit. And so our industry is so good at how do we say this, the ego portion of this, right? Everybody's got their numbers up and they're all celebrating and everything else. And I love driving realtors crazy, because I'll say, hey, how much profit you make last year? And they'll throw me a number and I say, yeah, that's what you sold. How much profit you
Yeah.
make? And they have no idea. And I'm like, well, the tax guy's coming at you. You got expenses, you got this, you got that. What'd you take to the bottom line? And they're not making much. And so, I always love to remind people in our industry, both sides, that the two most profitable are the solo agent on both the mortgage and the real estate side, and the solo agent on a team. Those are the two most profitable people in this business. The more you scale, the bigger you get, the more people you add, staffing, salaries, this, that, everything else, the more expensive it gets. and the less you
100%.
actually take home. And to your point,
100%.
now you've got coaching, training, management, leadership, complaints, everything to deal with. Um, it's not always as much fun.
Well, and it's also, this. You get somebody good. You get somebody brand new. They're on a very favorable split for the owner because they have to be, because that
Yeah,
person requires a lot of nurturing, a lot of training. But then they're slowly going to get better and better and better. And then they're going to start grinding, right? Because they want a better split. They
100%.
want a more fair split. And that's going to grind down to nothing. And by the way, I'm not saying I won't ever do this, but it's just a different change, right? Like your top
Or they
performers are not
leave
going
you
to.
and they become your competitor, right? I mean, that's the other side side of
Yeah,
it.
you train them like, hey, here's my Big Mac sauce. Go open McDonald's across the street. You know, things might
Pretty much what
change
happens
again.
every time,
You
right?
know, you know,
Do you
could
find, and I'd be love to hear from your side, because I've been saying on this side, I think there's less and less loyalty in the industry than even 5 years ago, 4 years ago. It feels like there's none left, right? Whether it's on the team, at the brokerage level, your side of things. I mean, are you finding that some of your core people, all of a sudden, you're just mortgages go elsewhere?
yeah, I see it the client for sure. More competition. The other piece I see is I think my industry is like your industry. Kind of few things have happened. You had your 21, 22, the craziness. Everybody made lots of money. Great. Lots of brokerages made lots of money. Well, now we're not selling as many homes. We're not doing as many mortgages. Same as my industry. But what does that mean? The brokerage isn't making as much money. And the agent, unless you're taking market share, you're probably not making as much money. So
Yeah.
now you're looking for ways to make more money. And the brokerages are all competing because the only way they can keep their sales up is market share. So they're pitching people left, right, and center too. So we kind of see what we see in your industry. There's people jumping around left, right, and center, right? I left this
Yeah.
brokerage, go work for this. Oftentimes within the same framework too. I'm with Dominion. I'm with this brokerage within Dominion. I'm going to jump to this brokerage within Dominion. Craziness, lots of stuff like that.
Yeah. So who are you seeing winning? Like what's the consistent thing that you see across your realtor partners? Because you've got a good network. We were talking. You were telling me some of the names you were working with, and I was like, I like all those people. Like you've got a very good group of realtors. Do you curate that? Like, are you like, hey, at the end of the lunch, I don't really like you so much, so I'm not going to bring you into my fold, or
It's
and B, what's the success formula? Because I get asked that all the time, right? Like people come to me all the time, like, "Hey, I heard you on the podcast. Like, what's the secret?" What are you seeing from the other side of things?
Yeah, I think part of it is just like-minded people like-minded people, and you attract what you attract, right? Like I look at my kids, is that just started school the last couple of weeks, and I see them hanging out with their friends on the playground, and their
Yeah,
friends all look like them. Like they're all wearing the same T-shirts with the same crap on it.
right.
Like people attract like people, and I think I tend to attract realtors which like to have a good time, which are definitely assertive, definitely aggressive realtors, definitely ones which are in it to do well, successful.
Yeah,
And I think so. Then when you go to like a Christmas party, you see a bunch of realtors which are kind of like you too, right? Like that's kind of who you pull in a little bit. So that's what I see. I see, and then I think this about me. I kind of get a kick out of the inner workings within real estate. People jump in different brokerages and stuff. And I think there's pros and cons of almost all of them, right?
yeah,
You listen, and usually comes down to people, right? Who's running the place or who the broker is. That's the biggest piece. And I do think, to speak to your point, I think, commission and all that stuff plays a much bigger role than it did in the past. Just because I think everybody's, you're fighting, scrapping for deals, right? So it
right.
matters more.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. I don't think it matters, if you're building the relationship you've done a good job, like I said, at being brand agnostic. Not all mortgage brokers do that either, right? Some mortgage brokers will you'll see them with certain brands a little bit more, and same on the real estate side. I think there's no reason in today's economy, today's market, it doesn't matter where you are, you can still be friends, right? Like you don't have to. It doesn't have to be this, oh, you're with ABC and I'm over here and we got to have a fight. So I got friends at all the companies, weirdly enough. And yeah, I got enemies at all the companies, weirdly enough. But, it's kind of that second question, right? And I think you sort of answered it in your first answer where you said, you're surrounding yourself with a mindset of people who want to do well. I heard the word aggressive in there. That's probably a characteristic of a lot of top tier realtors. There's a little aggression in there, but more they all kind of have that mental framework that they want to win. It seems to be who you're surrounding yourself with.
100%, 100%. I definitely attract people like that, and those are the people I like hanging out with. Right,
Now,
people.
is it just because you like the tea that comes out from all those
Oh, I
people?
love that. Yeah, I do love that part. Yeah, I love some good hot gossip for sure. So I'm down. But I do like working within the different brokerages too. I think it's neat. And I also apply the same in the mortgage industry. Like there's some mortgage brokers and agents, they kind of stay in their bubble, right? Like if they're Dominion, they stay with Dominion. If they're
Right.
M3, they stay with M3. If it's TMG, they stay with TMG people. That's never been me. I go to a party. I like to talk to everybody because you never know. You pick up good ideas. And, and these industries, they're big, but they're small. It's the same in your world too. There's only so many brokerages in town. You don't know where life goes. I love Dominion. Not leaving Dominion, but I hopefully have another 20 years left in this career. Well, who the heck knows where that goes, right? So I think you always want
Well,
to keep your mind open.
I love that. I love that. And I think for everyone listening or watching, whichever way you are, it's sort of that reminder of the simplicity of what you've done, right? Like you've built one of the biggest mortgage businesses in the nation and you did it through creating relationships. And I tell this to people all the time where it's like, oh, I'm buying leads or I'm chasing this or I'm doing that. And I'm like, why don't you just go make some friends? You just go talk to
Yeah.
some people. Like it's effectively the same thing, right? Like you were calling realtors up that didn't know you. I think the first chat we had, like we knew of each other.
Yes.
I don't even think I took the first meeting. I have a really bad tendency to push and reschedule and kind of run a little bit of a chaotic life. I don't know that I took the
No,
first one, but
you're forgetting. You're forgetting how you how
I
you how
probably
you
am.
finally took my meeting. Do you want me to recap
Yeah,
how you
let's
remember
share it
this?
because I don't remember.
I tried to get you. You blew me off. You were like, yeah, we'll meet. And then we went to if you remember, we were at a wedding together.
I do remember we were.
I was the MC, and I came over and said, hey, Andre, blah blah blah. We still got to do that meeting. And your partner at the time was like, hey, why are you meeting with this guy? And that's how I ended up meeting with you. That was it. That was how that went down. I remember.
I'm
I remember.
I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I'm not. I am guilty of
Yeah,
all
you blew
that.
me off.
I probably did, and it probably happened because I had someone from a relationship standpoint that I was like, you know what, hey, I got someone. I don't need to because I'll be honest, I get the call almost daily at this point where there's
Sure.
somebody either sending me an email, giving me a call, sending me a text almost every single day going, hey, I'm a mortgage agent and I'd love to meet with you to talk about your business. And I'm like, the majority of people coming through that space, they're not going to be Jim. They're not going to be some of the professionals that we work with. So I'm going, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. And I didn't know who you were. You are right though. We were at, and by the way, Jim, one of the best MC jobs I've ever. I think I tell you that every time we talk about MC.
But the key that's missing because I'll sometimes have realtors say this to me. They're like, "Hey, I got cold call 100 times by this guy, so I sent him a deal, but then they're back with me because what's really important, you got to deliver what you say, and I'm really careful with what I promise to a realtor, and the promise is easy. Your customer's gonna love me. They're gonna be delighted with me. Like I'm gonna give them lots of attention. I'm going to make it efficient. I'm not going to bug you too much. I'm not going to give you too much noise. And we're going to get the deal done, which is the most important piece of the puzzle. I'm not going to tell you they're pre-approved and then walk it back when they find it. Like, we're going to be good. And I see lots of, and this is respectively, I just see lots of people which are pretty good at getting a realtor to at least try them. But you got to be great with that client too. The client experience has to match. Because if you're going to go out and wow a client, have a good experience, and you're going to get to know the client 100 times better than I ever will, because you're going through houses together, doing all those things. I'm not sitting at the kitchen table. I'm on the phone. I'm on a Zoom call, talking to them on email. I got to make that really great to make them say, yeah, Andre, I'm really glad you sent this Jim down my way. Scored me a good rate, took good care of me. It was awesome. Good experience. That's really important to back it up.
Well, and that's a big risk, right? Like if I'm referring clients, and I think this, whether you're on the real estate side, the mortgage side, you gotta be aware of that, right? Like if you're gonna start referring people to other professionals, you gotta vet them. You gotta know they're gonna deliver. Because the last thing you want to do is send a contact somewhere else. They F it up, blow the mortgage, the home inspection, whatever it is. They're going to be mad at that person. But if you've made the referral, they're also going to be really, really ticked off at you as well.
It reflects on you. It's the realtor. I make them you look good or bad. One of the two. And you got to hit a home run with that client experience. You have to.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness,
what you've built.
If I go back to part of my story, though, and here's where it's not fair. I always say I got rookie of the year and all this other stuff. I wasn't a rookie. I was 15 years of sales and then another 3 years of operations, which if you kind of pluck those two things together, that's what I do. There's a real customer service piece to this. And then there's, the Jim scratching his head and being organized and keeping things on track, which is all operational. So when I started, I was right off the hop. I wasn't a rookie, just the product had changed. I went from selling TVs to selling money and doing operations on retail to doing operations on clients, a client experience and client's data. So it changed a little bit. The other piece too is I remember when I was slow, the mistake I see. Now this applies to mortgage agents, but I also think it involves realtors too, as my guess. I always believe in an honest day's worth of work. So even in those early days, when there wasn't much to do, I put in an honest day's worth of work. I sat at the computer, I read lender policies. I got lenders to take me out and teach me. If there was not a single client to talk to in an 8-hour day, I still made my 8-hour day. There was no Netflix. There was rarely a lunch. There was a few coffee breaks and stuff, but that's it. Like it wasn't, I treated it like I was used to a long work week. I was used to 10-hour days. And I treated my mortgage broker the same, even when there was nothing to do. And I think that gave me a head start because, the only way you can catch up, like, all right, I had a wise person say this to me years ago. Let's say there's another mortgage broker which has been in the industry 20 years. The only thing they really got on me is knowledge, right? Because they've done all these files. Well, how can I close that gap? I can close it through reading and studying and listening to podcasts and those different mortgage brokering and Facebook groups and stuff. So I would even scan that and read years worth of posts. Okay, I got a client which is this. Who's best suited to help this client? So my goal was always like to close that gap, right? And so I just think if you put in the work, you can catch up with that fast.
Well, and I don't know that enough people like great message, right? I mean, we talk about coming into the business, what that looks like, what are the secrets to success, and that sounds like one of them right off the hop is every day you put in an honest day's work. I love that.
I mean, you call it
so simple.
Your podcast about hustle, right? Just put in an honest day's work, a fair day worth of work. Yeah, because the best part and the worst part about this industry is you can take off whenever you want, but you can also take off whenever you want. And it's
How often do you
very
hear that, right? Like
tempting. It's very tempting to sit by the pool or watch a TV show or whatever. I'm not saying don't treat yourself, because I think that's important too. And you can mix pleasure and our industry. Like golfing with three realtors is great for me. That's mixing two things I like to do, and it's business. That's part of an honest day's worth of work. Because I can tell you, there's a chance I'm going to get a call the next week with a deal. And I just think an honest day's worth of work. You got to look at yourself at the end of the day and say, yeah, I put in the time.
I don't know that everybody can say that.
I don't think lots of people do that. If I'm
Right?
honest.
No, like if we're just gonna be honest, like I don't know that everybody can say that. Like there's so many people that, um, they'll say, "Oh my God, I worked so hard today," and you go, "Okay, well, what'd you do? Tell me what you did." And then you kind of go through it, and like you said, well, I had a coffee by the pool. I didn't want to miss the the Chris Rock show or the whatever, and then I had this, and then I had that, and all of a sudden the day was over, and I don't know what happened.
It's just, I just view it. I don't want to break my back, but I want to put in an honest day's work. And that's it.
I
And,
love that.
some days I'm guilty too. Some days, something pops up, or maybe I have appointments that day. I'll catch myself at 10 o'clock at night when the kids are in bed. I'm like, all right, I'm going to putter for an hour or two, because I feel like I didn't put in enough time today.
Right.
I just think you gotta, what you put in is what you get out, right?
So I mean, what are you focused on now? Because we know that the market's, for lack of a better word, it's weird. Um, you're seeing an increase in applications. We got rates starting to come down a little bit. We're
Yeah.
hearing, the inflation thing might be where they want it, but you're still, I mean, volume's down, but you're still rolling. What's the secret? What are the things you're having that are giving you tremendous success right now?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. I've tried to grow my market share. That's been big. Can I want to work with more realtors. I want to work with, and the best realtors. Like that's my goal, is I want to work with the top realtors in Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge. I want to work with the best. So that's been a big focus of mine, is kind of growing that base, because that's all I can. If you only can send me, maybe in 2021, Andre, maybe you sent me 10 leads, for example. And maybe now you can only send me 5, because you don't have that business. It's just not there for you anymore. Well, as a mortgage broker now, if I can find another Andre, I'm back to 10. So that's kind of been my focus. The other piece of my focus has been just refining the client experience, because I really do think once rates start coming down, I think we're going to start to see us popping a little bit again. And so I've really been refining my client experience, putting back end structure in place, so that if we ramp up again, I can fly just as fast. I can keep up with that
Right.
pace of business, right?
I love
And
that.
then
I
just,
love that.
I think you're always just trying to better yourself. There's cool stuff coming down the pipe in terms of automation, and just, I think this is the same in your world. There's more compliance every day, it seems. So making sure I'm staying on top of all that sort of stuff. Uh, that's about it. That's been the focus for me this year.
What's great about that, and I say it all the time, and we've had a number of guests come on that have kind of echoed the same thing from all industries, because we're chatting with people that aren't just in real estate. They're in mortgages, they're in insurance, they're in different categories attached to real estate, because we wanted to open it up. And where we're hearing the win come from everywhere is the simplicity of the business. Every single person is focused on relationships. They're not overcomplicating what they're doing or what they're offering is. They're going back to basics, and then they're insulating themselves for whether the market goes up or down. They're putting systems and processes in place to, like you said, increase the client experience, so that no matter what happens, the client's having a great time through it. It's so wild to see how professionals, successful people, are just running their businesses with the simplest of forms. And then, you talk to a new realtor, or someone new to whichever side of the industry, and there's 50 things they're trying to figure out. And they're, guys, keep it simple. I think that's the message we keep hearing over and over again this year.
You know what I've been really thinking about a lot last year, and I've been trying to shape my business a little bit based on this. I'm like, what's my favorite companies out there? And I love Amazon. Like, done, ordered, guy shows up next day in that weird little van, right? Done. Easy. Got my stuff. Don't have to talk to anybody. Easy. And and mortgages are complicated. Okay. They're very complicated. But
Yeah.
what I've been trying to do is make as much of the process automated and easy for my clients. Like any shortcut I can take, which prevents them from pulling a document or doing something I'm trying to do. And then they can use as much or as little me as they want. If they want to talk my ear off for hours on end about their options, sure, let's do it. If they say, hey to me, Jim, I just want three year best rate, what do you got? What makes the most sense based on my file? I want them to have that too. And I've really been looking at it kind of just what can I do to make it easy for the client? Take something very complicated and just make it very easy and really on the customer's terms. So I spent a lot of time thinking about this.
I love that. And I think it's interesting you say that because I think another thing I've noticed in sort of top professionals is they're looking at businesses at a high level and they're mimicking and replicating what they can. You and Amazon, I've been doing this just a smidge longer than you, so I always went Starbucks, right? Like Starbucks changed the coffee game in my opinion, right? Like they demolished everybody else, but they're systematized, right? Like the client experience anywhere in the world that you go to is pretty well going to be very close or very much the same with a Starbucks. So as I was doing it, that's where I went. I went sort of the simplicity of what they've done, where it's easy, right? I grab my app, I pick what I need, I show up, they say my name, they probably spelt it wrong, part of the marketing campaign, and I get my coffee and I get to leave. You're kind of
Yeah.
going the other way. You're going super, super easy in simplicity. I click, I pick my package, it shows up at my doorstep. I don't have to talk to anybody, do anything, and I got a great experience out of it. And my product is there within 24 hours. So I love what you've done there.
I want to make it fast. Because we're in a competitive industry. I want that if that client wants a financing condition and needs a financing condition, that I'm the fastest, that I get their file done. Even I'll explain like something like how obsessed I am is I have, let's say I did your mortgage tomorrow and I got it approved and lenders always have conditions, right? They need this, they need this, they need this, sign this. So I kind of have a generic, imagine like a template, and I just edit it to every client and send it out. And it's mostly just me deleting things. And obviously I call the client, chat with the client, but hey, here's simple instructions to finish this mortgage off. I work with that template like a madman because if somebody asks me a question after I send that, and I notice that another client asked me the same question, I'm not giving them clear instructions, which is why they're asking the question. I'm not explaining myself properly. So then I'll edit it and reform that template. I couldn't tell you how many versions of this I have. But if you think about it, every time a client has to call me or send me a message, that's time out of their day. It's a friction point. I haven't explained something properly, or
Right.
I it's just a friction point for that client. And then on my end, it's either an email or a phone call I got to take, which is 5 to 15 minutes out of my day. If I can keep refining, it's way better for the client and it makes me more efficient too. So it's that'd be a good example of things I work on.
Smart. Smart. Hey, you run a good business, man. That's why we wanted to have you out, and you're sharing some of that wealth and that knowledge. So we ask everybody that comes out, and nobody ever knows this is coming, so I apologize in advance. We ask for a mic drop moment. We ask for what's the thing that anyone listening, whether they're on the real estate side, the mortgage side, what's the thing that, if they ran into you, this is the piece of advice you'd give them or the thing you'd share with them. Give me your mic drop moment, Jimmy.
I think you got it. Actually, it was talking about the honest day. I okay. I'll share where it came from. I remember years ago it was one of those future shop conferences, and this is super hokey, but it's like people are going to turn it off because they know this is dumb. But I always liked it. This guy, and I have no idea, by the way, who this guy is on video. Like, he inspired me, no idea. But he used to throw, those little bouncy balls you get at the supermarket for like 25 cents? Remember those when you're
Yeah.
kids? Every time somebody would ask a question or whatever, we'd throw one of these balls at them and tell them to hang on to it. And at the end of the conference, oh, sorry, I missed a piece. He goes, secret life. And he goes, here's the secret life. And he'd throw them the bouncy ball. And I remember at the end, he had everybody stand up in this conference. And he's like, okay, hold up the ball in front of you and just drop it. And it's pandemonium, right? Like balls are rolling. And then at the end, he's like, okay, now pick up your ball. And he goes, just spike it. So everybody spikes it. These balls start flying everywhere. At pandemonium, this like nice hotel conference. And I remember he said something. And he goes like, that's the secret of life. What you put in is what you get out. And he's like, you drop the ball and you put no effort in, it's just going to get away from you whatever you're chasing. If you put the most effort in, the results are going to be taken away. And this, by the way, is very hokey. But it always kind of stuck with me that I just got to keep putting in an honest day's worth of work. Like if I notice like my mortgages are falling off, my leads are falling off, I know I got to get out and I got to start seeing some realtors again and nurturing my clients, right?
Right.
It's just staying on top of your game.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's so simple in nature and so simple in the concept. Everyone's going to complicate it anyway. They may not listen, but that's the truth, right? What you get in is what you put out. I love it. Now, Jim, if someone's trying to get a hold of you, someone's listening to this realtor partner and they go, hey, I got to get some Jim in my life. Where do we find you? Is the best place email, phone, Instagram, Facebook? Like, where do you want people to connect with you? Would you be willing to share that?
Yeah. You can find me on all the big platforms. I'm on Instagram, Jim_Steffler. You can find me on TikTok. All the kids.
Are you on TikTok?
I am on TikTok. Yeah.
What are you doing on TikTok? I want to know.
Mostly you've seen some of my funny videos. Mostly funny videos.
Seen some of you. Yeah.
And then admittedly, like late night at like 10 o'clock in the hot tub, I just scroll endlessly.
You're just scrolling.
Yeah. So I'm on all those. I got a website, JimSteffler@findme.com. Email, Jim@JimStefflerMortgages.com. And then 226-338-5136. So
you're the first person that has publicly given us their phone number. We're in 15 countries, so you might get some calls from some weird places, but thank you for doing that.
Oh, am I going to start getting the weird WhatsApps? Like, am I going to get the weird WhatsApp? The weird WhatsApps are coming out.
Yeah, you're gonna get some weird ones. Guy, listen, this has been an absolute fun time, Jim. I appreciate that you made the time for me to get on here. Folks, if you're in the industry, you need to connect with someone who's great, reach out to Jim. If you're looking for some mortgage help, reach out to Jim. Jim, thank you so much. This has been another episode of the Real Estate Hustle Podcast. You can find me on Instagram, @ChinKW, and at the Real Estate Hustle Podcast. Feel free to follow us. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And Jim, it's been an absolute treat having you on today. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Awesome.